Such a good idea either. Good morning, everyone, on this 6th day of February. The program is Gilbert Talks Taxes. My name is Gilbert Carmona. I am an enrolled agent. An enrolled agent is a person enrolled with the IRS. I have unlimited authority to represent taxpayers in all kinds of matters, issues. I prepare tax returns. I argue before the IRS oftentimes. I handle tax problems, state tax problems, federal tax problems. I'm also an accountant, and I do financial services. And I want to thank everyone again. I was voted Best of Rutherford County, Best Financial Planner. And I want to thank everybody over there. The Daily Courier does their annual Best of Rutherford County, and I was voted Best Financial Planner. I want to thank, again, I cannot thank everyone enough that took the time to do that. So if you need to reach me, my office number is 828-289-9300. You can send me an email at gilbert@gilberttalkstaxes.com.
You're welcome.
I have an office here on Whitesides Road in Rutherfordton, 113 Whitesides Road, Rutherfordton. I have another office in Tryon. Those of you are picking us up in Tryon, now that we're the FM 100.9, they get me over there more and more. They used to just have to tune in, and those of you tuning in, live streaming at www.wcab59.com, they used to have to do that, but now they're actually picking me up over there in Polk County. But I have an office in Tryon at 226 South Trade Street, the beautiful Art Deco building right off the historic downtown Tryon.
I'm ready to start with the questions.
You ready to start with questions? If you have a question, feel free to call the studio, 828-286, and you want to call in at 287-3356. Yes, right. I get the sixes and the sevens mixed up. Okay, let me do that again. 828-287-3356. I'm going to get it after 5 or 6 years. I really am. You can call, but everybody already knows the number. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They can call here if you have a question about taxes, taxation. And I got a feeling I'm going to get a lot of questions about stimulus. What is this question about?
Okay, this question is, how much does a married couple have to make if the Social Security is their only income? Do they have to file a tax return?
Okay, so this question is a multi-part answer. Okay, if you just are making Social Security, that's your only income. The answer typically is no. Standard deduction has been raised to over $24,000, and then if you're over 65, you get the senior bump, which I got to get used to the new numbers. It's like $26,800. Okay, so and that may not be exact because I know they gave a little bump to that number, and then if one person's legally blind, it gets bumped again. So it's standard deduction just for a regular married couple filing joint is $24,800. Okay, so, and that's just off the top of my head. My wife is the one, yeah, she's the brain. She's the one who has these numbers all memorized. But standard deduction is $24,800. So if you make less than that, you owe zero tax. If Social Security is your only income. And even with Social Security gets prorated by a formula. So let's say you have all this other income, you have pension income, and you have, or you're still working. A lot of people are retiring at, their retirement age is 66 and 10 months, whatever. 67 is the maximum, so they retire, but they still want to work. Some people are still working full time. I mean, if they're healthy, they want to keep going. I've got people in their mid-70s that are working full-time jobs, not because they have to, because they want to. I mean, they're active, they're just go-get-ems. I mean, we all know people like that. I actually had a lady that was 83, 84, and was working a full-time job. And she loved it. She had no plans of slowing down. So what happens is a portion of your Social Security becomes taxable. But the maximum of your Social Security that can be taxable is 85%. Okay? And it's just taxable at regular income rate. Okay, but let me return back to the question, which is standard deduction. If your Social Security, and that's all the income you have, you're below standard deduction, you will have a zero tax return. You will owe no money. Now, we used to tell people, don't worry about it, don't file a tax return, it's zero. The IRS isn't going to come after you. When I say we, I'm talking about me, my friends, other practitioners I know. We are changing our view on that because of something called ID theft and scams and fraudulent tax returns. What happens is when you file your tax return, it's more than just making a declaration of how much money you make, declaring your financial position to the IRS. I'm holding my little fingers up, the quote, financial position. You're doing more than that. You're actually in the computers, in the internal system, you are locking those Social Security numbers down. So you have a husband and wife, married filing joint, those two Social Security numbers. Once I file that tax return and I sent it electronically to the IRS and it gets in their computer, that's it. You filed a tax return. If a second person comes along and tries to file a tax return using those socials, either alone or together, they will be rejected. And the way, let me explain it this way, because people don't understand how a lot of the tax scams that go on. One of the big ones is claiming fraudulent earned income tax credits. So what these scammers, and they are people that actually spend all day trying to figure out ways to scam money, that's what they do. They have ways of getting Social Security numbers, names, dates of birth. I've heard you can actually buy them I've seen videos from investigative reporters that you can buy these online. They get hacked from government sources. That's why people try to hack government servers all the time, because that's where this kind of data is. Another source is employers. They try to get client or employee files from, I've had clients that where they worked at, they had a security breach. Security breach just means somebody was able to get the data. Somebody actually got the names, Social Security numbers, addresses, dates of birth of all the employees that worked at this business, and it was several thousand. They did it through an email to a personnel director asking for the information. It was a fraudulent email claiming to be one of the president or vice president, and the person did it, because we've now come into an age where people get an email and they just respond to it and do it. The person really should have checked to make sure, did you really, a simple email back to that president or a phone call or inter-office text, whatever, another way to have verified it. Did you really need this information? Because it was sensitive information. So their data was compromised. When we filed his tax return got rejected. And the reject code was, a tax return using this social has already been filed. So what they will do is they will compile a tax return. They will put children and adults and things on there. They'll get a $5,000, $6,000, $4,000 whatever dollar refund. They'll e-file it and have the money deposited on one of those Visa cash cards or whatever. So it's virtually untraceable. And they do this. That's the biggest scam that they work with tax returns. Well, senior citizens have always been a favorite target of theirs because senior citizens traditionally don't file tax returns. So if they can get a senior's Social Security number, date of birth, name, they can file a tax return, and the person will never know it because they're not filing a tax return. It's not coming back. So now our advice is to a lot of the seniors, even though it's a zero tax return, even though you're not going to get any money back or you're not going to owe any money, that's what we call a zero tax return, go ahead and file a tax return. I know a lot of the senior centers did them for free. Some banks offer it to their clients. I don't want to name any names. Some banks offer it to their clients for free. You can do it online through the IRS, free file. So there are ways to do this, and it locks down your Social Security number. We've been advising that to everybody, to do that. That way we know. I've had several over the years where the parents, grandparents, whatever, they're in a nursing home, haven't filed a tax return in years, and the person now they have to go to a nursing home. They're getting older, so somebody's taking responsibility for their finances and their mail and everything, and they'll get these letters from the IRS showing up saying you owe money, or tax return has been filed in your name, we want to verify it. They'll go to the parents and say, oh, you got this letter, and they'll say, oh yeah, I get those letters all the time, just throw that out. I don't file a tax return. Well, one of the children who's got a little more sense that knows that this is important. It's a letter from the IRS. You don't ignore letters from the IRS. They don't do anything just cause. came to my office and said he's been throwing these letters out for years. Well, it turns out that for years, somebody's been filing tax returns under his name and social and claiming children. And they audited one of them, and because nobody ever replied, they went ahead and asked for their money back. So now this person actually owed the IRS like $12,000 or $15,000 because they'll want those credits back, those earned income tax credits, child tax credits. If they ask for proof, if you file a tax return claiming those credits, and you get a letter from the IRS saying we're verifying information, we need proof from you. Or it's not always the IRS. Sometimes it's the state of North Carolina, because you filed a federal tax return, but one wasn't filed at the state level. They'll send a letter, hey, you forgot us. You need to send us a tax return. So some of these senior citizens have ignored these letters, or they've just said, I don't do that. That must be a mistake. So, and then the children. So I've had several come to my office with these letters. And I'm a little concerned. I'm like, yes, you need to be concerned, because what will happen is they'll start garnishing their Social Security. Oh, yeah. Now, the most they can garnish on Social Security is 15%, but still it's 15%. If you're getting $1,000 a month, that's $150 that they can garnish. So don't ignore this. This is really a big issue, and senior citizens are a target of this. I've said it for years. So our advice now is go ahead and file a tax return. Get it filed. But if you just get Social Security, no, you do not have to file a tax return. You're going to be well below standard deduction, or you're going to be right at it, or you're going to be around it. Again, it's a sliding scale. You can still make more than standard deduction and still owe zero. But typically single or joint filers that only get Social Security have zero tax liability. Even if you get a little bit of interest income, a little bit of dividend income, if it's just a very small amount, you're going to have a zero liability. But then you get into this other issue. So speaking of scams, that was actually, thank you for that phone call. That's a very important phone call. It's a very important issue. I mean, it was a very important question. It's a very important issue that needs to be discussed. I'm going to talk about scams in 1 second, but just something else just came to me. I have the same thing when somebody passes away. We used to say if a person passed away, there is a final tax return that should be done. And again, years ago, we used to say if it's a zero return, you don't have to do it. So a lot of the heirs would say, well, let's not do it. And we were okay with that. Now our advice is go ahead and do it, because again, it locks down that Social Security number and it notifies the IRS this is a final tax return, because on there we put that the person's deceased and the date they were deceased, and then we put whoever the executor or trustee or whoever care of on there. So it notifies the IRS's computers that this person's passed away. I just had one the other day where the father passed away. There was no taxable income to report, and I told them that. I said, well, I recommend you do it. And their their estate attorney said, well, you really don't need to do it. It's a zero. And I let them know my opinion. Well, they decided not to do it. And I haven't heard anything since, but I just think that's just bad advice. I really think you need to do this. File that last tax return. I mean, and I told the man, I said, well, he wanted me to save the money. I said, really? It's $100. We charge $100. And you can get it done for free. You really can, because if it's simple, it's a zero. IRS.gov has it. So it's not. I'm not trying to get you to do this because I want your $100, okay? I mean, there's other places you can go. I know senior centers do it for free. Some banks offer it for free to their clients. If you're a client of a bank, they offer free tax services. Some charge a small amount. I think there's a bank that charges $75. I think. I don't think they've raised it. It was $75 last year, and there's another one that charges $65. So, but you have to be their customer to get that service. But still, for that amount of money, you're closing the door on something that potentially could come back, especially in an estate. Let's say somebody's using that social for something, it can come back to the estate. Well, no, we've done everything. We've closed it. We've reported it to the IRS. It's a done deal. Now, scams. Let me talk about scams. Were you going to ask another question?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, if the family doesn't do what you said, go ahead and do that, so you can go ahead and send it in, and that person is deceased. And somebody does use their Social Security number, gets their hands on it, is that family going to be responsible for paying that money back?
Okay, that's a great question because, and this is really something I'm going to talk about towards the end of the program. I'm going to talk about an executor's responsibility with an estate. And that was why I told the attorney and I told the taxpayer, I said, I think you're making a mistake here. Just hear me out. And I told them why. Because executors are responsible. So I can think of, just off the top of my head, I can think of 5 or 6 nightmare scenarios where this could come back. Somebody got a hold of that social, somebody got a hold of that, their date of birth, and did some financial things online. I mean, I hear something new, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I hear of something new, and I'm getting ready to share of one that I just heard new this week. I hear of something new at least once a week. And I hear the story, and I go, do people just sit around and think of this stuff? Well, yeah, the Bible tells us that. There are people, in Psalms, it says there are people that lay on their bed thinking of evil. It says, how does it say it? It says they lay in bed and think of evil all the night long. They have to be to think of this stuff because it's crazy. So I can think of scenarios where, yes, the executor is responsible. So the executor made a decision to not do that. And again, nothing may happen, and probably nothing will happen. But in these times, something can happen. And if it does happen, it can be really, really bad. Somebody could have committed the estate to all kinds of things. And even if you say, well, we didn't do that, that's easy to prove we didn't do it, you're still going to have to go through the process, which potentially could get me involved anyway, potentially get the attorney involved, potentially it could cost the estate or the individual executor thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars, all to save $100. You know, that was what I said. I said, really? Is it about $100? I said, let's rethink this a minute. And so I could come up with scenarios, and some of them seem far-fetched, but they can happen. And I'm going to talk about that because I'm going to get back into talking about the responsibility, what happens when somebody passes away, because we've had a lot of that this year, and I've got several on my desk right now where people have passed away. What do you do? What's the executor's responsibility? And the executor is liable. I'm going to get into that. And I'm going to talk about the scam I want to share. Let's go ahead and take a break. Lou, this is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9.
As we get ready for this year's tax season, there's one thought on everyone's mind. Will Gilbert's hair look fabulous this year? Oh, yes, it will. How can I say that? Because I go to Robin Saunders at RSL Salon. Whether it's a good haircut, a pedicure, or a manicure, you can count on RSL Salon. Call Robin at 828-289-9110 because everyone deserves to look fabulous. People come up to me and say, Gilbert, thank you for doing my tax return and thank you for getting me that big refund. Do you have any ideas what I can do with that refund? Oh, yes, I do. Take that refund right over to NC Tractor and Farm Supply, talk to Phil, get you a brand new shiny red Massey Ferguson. That's NC Tractor and Farm Supply, Railroad Avenue. You can call Phil at 828-429-5008. By the way, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes. I'm hoping he'll give me a discount when I go buy my brand new shiny Massey Ferguson tractor.
We are back. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9. Those of you live streaming, can you tilt that up a little bit so they can see how fabulous my hair looks?
Absolutely.
Yes, tilt that up just a little bit. Yes, there we go. There, you got the full view now, and my hair does look fabulous this morning. Well, at first I was a little leery, but it's okay. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. Good morning. Thank you for live streaming. I get emails from people and phone calls thanking me, and I'm amazed that the people that reach this little station here in the foothills has. I get calls from all over the country. I actually have clients all over the country. It's just amazing. It really is. To me, it's amazing.
You're saying country, not county.
I'm talking about country, yes, with an R. Country. Yes, I have just clients all over. Okay, let me talk about this. And if you need to reach me, telephone number is 828-289-9300. 828-289-9300. That is the office number. Feel free to give me a call. Send me an email, gilbert@gilberttalkstaxes.com. Okay, this really happened. Just when you think you've heard it all. I am sitting in my office. This happened Thursday with a client, and I'm doing his tax return, which is why I do a lot of that these days. I'm doing that tax return, and we're just talking away, and I haven't, I see, it's sad. I see people either once a year, or if they have a problem, an issue, they'll come see me. That's it. I don't see them. I guess no news is good news, right? In their world, if they see Gilbert, it's either good or bad, right? So I only see this fellow once a year, so we're just talking, and I do taxes for several other family members of his, so we're getting caught up on stuff. And his phone rings, and it's his wife calling him, and she said, there is a man standing at the door, yes, of their house, knocked on the door, in a suit, with a badge on that says Social Security Administration. And he is asking them, yes, this is right here. He lives here in Rutherford County. And he is asking, knew their names, knocked on the door, and wanted to review their Social Security file, their SSA file for Medicare, and wanted to make sure that they were all caught up with everything, with MedSup and everything, and if they had that he was with Social Security Administration. So she thought and really, it might have been God that had her do this, because her thinking was, well, my husband's meeting with Gilbert. Maybe this has something to do with Gilbert, because they are. The thing that's made the whole story kind of weird was they're actually going to be starting Social Security here real soon, and that's part of what we were talking about. So here the phone. So she said, well, maybe this guy's with Gilbert. So she calls him, and there's a guy here, and I'm like, no, Social Security, and he had a badge on, like one of the things that hangs around your neck that said Social Security, the way she described it. Social Security Administration. Social Security Administration, they don't even answer the phone. They are not going to send somebody out to your house, okay? They're not going to call you. They're not going to send somebody out to your house to make sure that your paperwork's all filled out right. They just don't do that. Now, the husband told her to tell the guy to leave, which he did. The guy did. He left. He promptly left. And I thought, we should have asked him some questions. What I'm wondering is, was he either trying to get information from them? But that's a lot to go through when you can just buy that information online. Or was he maybe trying to sell MedSup insurance, and he was just using this whole thing that I'm with SSA, or somehow loosely connect himself to Social Security? I never did quite figure out what the scam was, because she called him right away, and I said, no, tell him to leave. I said, did she give him any information? She said, no, she didn't give him anything, which he did want to know their socials, and he didn't want to go through all that. She said, no, I gave him nothing. But he did know their names. But I can Google your address, and your tax records come up, all that comes up. So the idea of privacy just doesn't exist anymore. As far as that goes, they can get that information pretty simply online. So here we are. So this happened in real time. Yeah, the man's knocking on the door. He was wearing a suit. So Social Security, I'm just going to go back over this again, just like the IRS, just like the state of North Carolina, just like the Passport Service, Social Security, they will never call you. They conduct all business through the mail. They don't email you. They don't call you. They don't send you a tweet on Twitter. They don't send you a Facebook. What do they call it on Facebook? I don't use Facebook, so yeah, you don't do Facebook either. Yeah, whatever you do on Facebook, a message. They're not going to send you a hangout through Microsoft, and you're not going to like the IRS on Facebook. They don't do that. Okay, the only time you're actually getting a phone call from the IRS, like I get phone calls from the IRS, but I'm working on cases, and I know who's calling me because I'm working on that case. So if I'm working with Mrs. Smith at the IRS, Mrs. Smith calls me, okay, I'm expecting that phone call. but from her, and her and I are working on this case. We're usually faxing back and forth because they're old school. They still do faxing over there, which I love faxing. It's they got it. You have proof they got it. I send emails all the time. People are like, I never got it. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at it right here. I sent it. Oh, that email. But, with a fax, you got a thing. So they still do a lot of faxing at the IRS. So we will be faxing, and me and Mrs. Smith are working on this case together. And sometimes these cases go on for many, many months. So Mrs. Smith and I know each other pretty well by now. So I know who I'm working with. That's the only time you will get a phone call from the IRS. And even then, you're not going to get the phone call. I'm going to get the phone call. But Social Security will never call you. You're never going to get one of those recorded messages telling you that you better send them money right now or they're going to come and arrest you. They just don't do that, folks. And I know it's hard to resist the temptation, but people worry. I get phone calls all the time. The IRS is coming to arrest me. Or like the one guy called me up. What did you do? You messed up my tax return. They're coming to arrest me. I'm like, they're not coming to arrest you. But I still don't think he ever believed it. Now that's a new scam. If that happens to you, you can actually call SSA and report this. I don't know what that's going to do in the short term. In the long term, it may notify them. But there's actually an 800 fraud number you can call and report this. But be aware that this is going on. It's going on right here in Rutherford County, right 2 minutes from my office. This happened, and it happened Thursday. So this man is around, or was around. Okay. The second scam I want to talk about real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but people want to see about their stimulus, which I'm going to talk about stimulus in a minute. People want to see about their stimulus, so they go to irs.something. You're supposed to go to irs.gov, G-O-V. But what do people do? They Google stimulus payment. When you Google stimulus payment, you get all kinds of stuff. I was looking at them last night. There's an irs.com. There's an irs.org. There's an irs.net. So there's all these, and you think it's the IRS website, and some of them are innocent. Some of them they just want to, pass on information or have you sign up with them for whatever. But some of them are fraudulent sites set up for you to put your information in to steal your information. There was one a couple of years ago for FAFSA. FAFSA is the application that college students have to fill out to get aid to go to college. So there was a fraudulent FAFSA site that actually asked you for your banking information. Oh yeah, and it looked just like the real site. I mean, it looked enough like it. So I had a lady call me, and she says, I'm filling out the FAFSA right now, and they want to know my bank information, and I handled all of their finances. She said, yeah, it was just easier for me to call you because you've got all these account numbers. I want to use that one account that I use for the blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait a minute. FAFSA's asking you for bank information? Yeah, they want my routing number, my account number, and this. And I said, what site are you on? And she was like on FAFSA.net or something like that. It was a fraudulent site. So I said, get off that thing right now. Delete, go back, delete. Don't save. I said, have you hit the save button? She said, no. I said, don't. Delete everything. And we monitored her bank activity very closely. Nothing happened. I don't know if any information got out, but we watched it pretty closely there for a while, and nothing happened. But be aware, because people just want their $600, and they'll click on anything. They'll give anybody any information if you think that person's holding your $600 check. It's unbelievable. It's like all restraints that you would normally feel just like go away. Oh yeah. Well, you remember years ago there was the recorded message going out saying we're holding up your refund, because this time of the year they know that 180 million people are going to get refunds. So those automatic dialers know that there's a pretty good chance you're going to hit up on somebody. If you just keep dialing long enough, you're going to hit up on a lot of people expecting a refund. So they say, it was very official sounding, we're holding up your refund because we need to verify banking information. And I actually have people call me up, you messed up my tax return. I said, I did what? Messed up my tax return. I'm sorry, but your tax return wasn't that complicated. There wasn't anything to mess up. What's the problem? Oh, the IRS can't deposit. They called me. I said, oh, right there. They called you. What happens if if I do mess up your bank account information? It's already been submitted. You can't go change it. There's no way to change it. Because I've had people give me or they give me a bank, and then a week later they switch banks and they forget. And then they remember, like they're laying in bed at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and they remember, and they call me. I just changed my bank. So there's nothing you can do. If it goes to deposit that money into that bank account, and the bank account's been closed or it's the wrong number, it will reject it immediately. The IRS then gets a reject notice, and their computer automatically cuts you a check to the address on the tax return. That is your standard protocol, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Once that tax return's sent off, that's it. Okay? So be careful with these scams. They are after your information. Your information is worth money. Your information can be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to these scammers. So just know that they do that. Okay, let's take another break. And Lou, when I come back, I'm going to talk about, that stimulus money that's supposed to be tax-free?
Oh, yeah.
Not if you live in Oregon. I'm going to talk about that when you get back. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
This is Gilbert. If you owe the IRS past due taxes, don't call those toll-free national numbers. Local, affordable help is right here in Rutherford County. Stop garnishments, levies, and liens. Call Gilbert Carmona at 828-289-9300. All initial consultations are free. Call Gilbert, 828-289-9300.
Hi there, this is Kimberly, and I'm here to tell you about Peterson's Auto Service and Detail Shop. As a woman, I'm often apprehensive about taking my car to a dirty service garage. But you can be assured that Peterson's, located at 478 Butler Road, Forest City, has an incredibly clean and safe environment where you get high-quality service at a great price. Peterson's was voted Rutherford County's best auto service 3 years in a row. So take your car to Peterson's for brakes, oil change, North Carolina inspection, tire rotation, headlight lens restoration, scratch removal, and meticulous auto detailing. That's Peterson's at 478 Butler Road, Forest City. You can call him for an appointment at 245-8889.
We are back. Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. Those of you live streaming, good morning. I am wearing, got my warm woolies on. It is cold outside. Actually, it's 29 degrees right now.
And I got a fan blowing on me.
She's got a fan blowing. Lou's got a fan blowing in here. So the temperature's supposed to get up to the mid-40s today or something. It's supposed to actually be not bad. And then we're going to have snow maybe tonight. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know the saying in Rutherford County, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
You're
learning. Yes. Well, I've only been here 27 years now. After 27 years, I finally got it. Well, I learned the important lesson. Run to buy low and get eggs and milk. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Okay. So stimulus checks. And I'm really trying to keep my opinions down. Okay. I'm not shy about telling you what I really think. But this to me is just hypocrisy. This is hypocrisy. This is just plain hypocrisy. Okay. When our former president did a tax bill that saved people thousands of dollars, it was pathetic crumbs. Remember that? It was insignificant. But when the other party does a $600 check, it's earth-shattering. It is going to save people that are dying in the streets. Okay? So the whole reason we're having these stimulus checks is because people lost their jobs, people need money. This is urgent, vital care. That's why it took them 2 months to get it out to people. Okay, now, and it is tax-free money at the federal level. It is tax-free money. So you got $1,200 per person, $500 per dependent. Last go-around, this newest go-around, $600 per person, $600 per dependent. You got that money. It's tax-free. So a family of 3, again, there's a cutoff at age 16, but a family of 3 could be getting $3,400 the first time, could be getting $2,400 the second time. I mean, it's $5,000, a lot of money, okay, for a family. And so you're getting this money. and it's tax-free at the federal level, and at the state level, it is supposed to be tax-free, but every state can do what they want, as we just learned in the last election. Every state can do whatever they want, okay? There are 10 states that don't have state state income tax at all. There's no state income tax, so this is a non-issue. But the state of Oregon decided they're going to tax this stimulus check. Actually, they said it's law in their state to tax this stimulus check. It goes back to, do you remember the $400 that George Bush gave us in 2008? Was it six?
Yeah, I got 600.
Okay. Oh, 600. Oh, 600. Okay. Okay, but it was 2008
Yeah.
was the year. Yes. Okay. In 2008, it was 600. I thought, okay, for some people it was 400. It was one of them, but that's what it was. So in 2008, well, they taxed it. Oregon taxed it back then, and they claimed that they had a law in place. So they are taxing this money, okay, that is coming. Now, why do I say this is hypocrisy? Oregon is probably one of the most liberal states in the country. There, everything is free there. That's where they called rioting the Summer of Love. Remember? That's Oregon, Portland, that had all this stuff going on, and it's just they have free medical care. They have a bunch of stuff. Well, who's going to pay for all this stuff, right? And who's going to pay for all the damage done to the state? The people that live there. The people are going to pay for it. Their tax rate, their state tax rate, is 8.75. Okay. When I was researching this story, I went to their radio station there, their television station there, which is KOIN, and even the reporters doing this story had this look on their face like they couldn't believe that the state was doing this. They were, they're pretty liberal people, okay? And they were just looking like, wait, you're taxing the stimulus check? And so I checked with some of my counterparts there, other enrolled agents, and sure enough, it's what's going on. They were shocked because, the software does so much of it, and they're doing the software, and people that normally would be getting a $300 or $400 or $500 refund are now owing $300 or $400 or $500 or $600. And they're like, well, wait a minute, what's wrong? What happened? And they're going through it, and they're like, it's taxing the stimulus. So sure enough, the stimulus there is being taxed at 8.75%. So let me break that out into real numbers. You got last summer the $1,200. You got just last month, the $600. That's $1,800 at 8.75%. That is $157.50 that you're going to pay. Okay, you say, well, that's not a lot of money. Okay, times that by 2 for a husband and wife. At $315. Okay, throw in a couple of children. Okay, you're not looking at and children to qualify. Throw in 3 children to qualify. You're looking at a $600, $700, $800 tax bill. Exactly. Which again, I understand it. Okay, it's income. They claim their state law says it's income, but what was the reason we did this income? To help people because of the pandemic. People were literally losing everything because they didn't have any money. So we gave them some money. Now they're going to tax this money. It's just, it is, so I don't know. I don't even know what to even call this. Okay. I mean, this is the first time ever in the history of the United States, first time ever in our history, that all 50 states and territories have been declared a national disaster area. Donald Trump did that in March, I forget the date, I want to say March 13th of 2020. President Trump declared all 50 states and territories a national disaster. We have never had one disaster do that. So it's opened up, and he was right to do that. He was smart to do that because it opened up a lot of laws and a lot of potentials and a lot of things to do, and this was one of them, issuing the stimulus and making it tax-free. So they seem to be going against all that. And I mean, I guess, they can't pass up the opportunity to generate a couple of $100 million of tax revenue. They just can't say no to that. And in another case, another thing of questionable tax laws. Part of the CARES Act allows school teachers, now school teachers know, you school teachers out there listening, you know you can deduct on your tax return above the line $250, okay, for school supplies, which every school teacher I know, every one of them that comes to me says that is ridiculous. They spend 4 times that. I had one lady actually have the receipts. She spent around $1,000 on school supplies. She said $250. She said, I spend that on crayons. She goes, that's just not a lot. And they haven't raised it. I've been doing tax returns for 22 years now, and it's been $250 for 22 years. I was really hoping they were going to raise it with the tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I was really holding on that was going to get raised to a reasonable number, at least double it, make it 500. Well, now the new CARES, I mean, they went through great lengths. I mean, I've got a whole one-page handout about how wonderful this is. You can now use that $250. COVID supplies now qualifies. Tissues, masks, wipes, sanitary wipes, gloves, anything you buy. So if 250, okay, whatever. I'm not even going to go there. That all qualifies. You can now, so if you weren't spending it, if you were ever short on that 250, face masks, disinfectant, hand soap, hand sanitizer, gloves, tape and chalk to mark off and guide social distancing. So if you buy a 6-foot stick, you can write it off. Physical barriers like clear plexiglass, that stuff's like $20 a sheet. I don't think $250 is going to go far. Clear plexiglass, air purifiers. Okay, I know. Lou's looking down very. Lou's looking down. I know. It's like, is anybody really paying attention? Again, it just shows the disconnect. All of this shows the disconnect between the people that work in government and the people that write these laws and you and me. And the disconnect isn't a little valley. It is a Grand Canyon. The disconnect. They're on one side of the canyon, we're on the other side. I mean, they have no idea. It's like our president he's going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He's going to do it. And look, he did it for federal workers. They just didn't tell you that part. For federal workers. But what federal worker makes less than $15 an hour? I mean, I don't know of any federal job that starts, maybe there is. Of course, I don't know every federal job, but all the federal workers I know are making a lot more than $15 an hour. And rightly so. It's a hard job. I mean, they're qualified. Many of them have advanced degrees. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Now, let me give you some good news. Charitable contributions. Because of the high standard deduction, $24,800, the high standard deduction, charitable contribution, and this was a concern. I've talked about this in prior years. It was a concern 3 years ago when the standard deduction got raised so high, because you only get the write-off for charitable contributions if you itemize. And a very small percentage of the people get to itemize now because the standard deduction is so high. So you have to be higher than the standard deduction to be able to itemize. And unless you're like a very serious donor giving a lot of money, or you have a very high interest rate on your house, not the percentage, not the rate, but the actual payments you make on your house out of property tax, those are the 3 main things you itemize. Or medical. But medical, very few people itemize medical because of the floor. It's 7.5%. So most people that itemize because of charitable contributions, property tax, and home mortgage. Those are the 3 big things that cause you to go over standard deduction. So they did a little thing here, and it's a little thing, but at least it's in the right direction. The first $300 of your charitable giving now goes on the front of your tax return, and you get a straight deduction off income of that $300. Personally, I think it should have been $3,000, but it's $300. So if you're in a 20% tax bracket, it'll reduce your taxes by $60. Is the bottom line. Or if you're in a 12% tax bracket, $36, 10%, $30. But still, it's good. It's at least headed in the right direction. I hope they make this permanent, and this isn't just a pandemic thing that they're going to recall later. I don't know exactly the status of this, but I hope it's permanent. I think this is really going to help churches, and it's going to help charitable groups. So the first $300, so if you give more, the software is automatically putting that first $300 on the front page. Then if you get to itemize, okay, then you will get the credit for the difference on Schedule A, which is your itemized form. And then this year, normally of your charitable contribution, you only get to deduct a percentage of it, and it's limited. Your income's limited. Now it's unlimited. It's 100% deduction. So that, which I thought that was great. They're trying to help these churches that were hard hit, and not just churches, but any not-for-profit that was hard hit because of the shutdowns. Because you remember, there was all the thing with churches. You couldn't go to your house of worship, quote unquote, whatever that house is, wherever you go. So, I mean, it was affecting everybody across the board. You know, mosques and temples and synagogue, churches, a lot of them. And a lot of them have had to close, and we're still, and it's not over yet, we're still going to see some of these close. So you got to have proof of that, of course. So where people would never, they're like, oh, well, I don't get to itemize. Not this year. You know, have your tithing letter, or have whatever proof that you gave to a 501c3, to a nonprofit that you can give to. And if you don't know if the groups you give to are legitimately registered with the IRS, you can actually go to irs.gov and verify that. irs.gov, there's a charitable section, charitable organizations. You can look up by their name and their address, the town, their EIN number. You can look up their status and see if they are registered and a legitimate 501c3. Okay, let's take our last break. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
I want to tell you about a little-known Rutherford County gem, Integrity Marble and Granite, located at 287 Shiloh Road in Forest City. They are the premier stone fabrication company in the western North Carolina region. They specialize in granite, marble, and natural stone, offering complete design and installation. Their design center and Kohler showroom features vanities, decorative accessories, bathroom, and kitchen fixtures. You do not have to go to Charlotte or Asheville for this kind of quality. We have it right here in Forest City. Stop in their showroom and browse their beautiful displays, or you can call 828-247-8801 for a free quote. You can also go to their website, www.integritymarblegranite.com, and look at the pictures and see samples of their available materials. Now, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes, and they will give you $100 off any sink purchase. That's Integrity Marble and Granite.
Put Jesse James Railroad Express on your daily lunch list. He now has daily specials. Monday, get a hot dog with mustard, chili, and onions for 99 cents. Add slaw for 45 cents. Tuesday, the Carolina Express on a regular bun, any side, 16-ounce drink, $6.99 plus tax. Thursday, chicken salad croissant, any side with regular drink, $6.99 plus tax. Friday, 2 hot dogs any way, bag of chips, 16-ounce drinks, $4.99 plus tax. A delicious lunch every day of the week. Only at Jesse James Railroad Express, open every day 11 a.m. until 4. Closed Wednesday and Sunday. Call 828-447-4644 for takeout orders. Jesse James is located 531 Railroad Avenue in Rutherton. All aboard.
We are back. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. Let me talk the last few minutes that I have here. Let me talk about, this is not my favorite topic, but it's an important topic. What happens when a loved one passes away? I was hoping to talk all about this in over three shows, but I barely got past part 1 in 3 shows. I have this actually broken out into 3 different parts of what I was going to talk about. So the tax considerations when a loved one passes away, and really it's not just a loved one, because you could find yourself in a responsible party situation when a person passed away and you are the executor. So this could be all kinds of, this could take on many forms. I actually had somebody that was named executor for a family member that he barely knew. I mean, it was a distant family member, and but connected with his parents, and the person thought very highly of him and wanted him to handle his estate. So, and the person's doing it, but you know, there was a will involved, and it was, so pretty much it's just a function. You're doing this, you're just following the letter of the law. So, but when a person passes away, you've got some responsibility. The person could be single or married. The person may or may not be a relative. Doesn't even have to be a relative. It could be somebody that knew you and trusted you enough to actually name you to be their executor. So you stepped up to the plate. You taken the, and it's a challenging job. You're going to act as executor for the deceased person's estate. You've got a lot of work. You've got to handle tax matters. Okay, so the executor's role is basically, you're the one responsible for seeing to the administration of the funds of the estate. And don't think that, well, he didn't have anything. No, if he had anything, there's an estate. If he had any personal property at all, whether it's taxable, not taxable, I'm not even talking about that right now, just if there's anything. I mean, that person was a person, and they had things, and they would like their things, something done with those things. And if they thought enough to make a will, or at least write it down, or at least discuss it with you or somebody, that person cared. And I'm not even going to get into the issue of pets. Pets are a whole, oh yes, Lou gave me a look. Pets are a whole other topic. What do you do with pets of a deceased person? Somebody has to take care of it, that pet. Exactly. So if there is no will, the probate court will appoint an administrator. But in either case, it will often be the surviving spouse or another family member who takes on the responsibility. Okay, now we're going to call that person the executor. I know different states may have different names for them. You may be called a trustee, a trusted party, whatever. You're an executor. The role of the executor is to identify the estate's assets. You've got to pay off the estate's debts, the person passed away's debts, and then you've got to distribute the remainder, whatever's left over. And it's not always just money. As a matter of fact, the most important things are often not money. The most important things are often personal belongings of this person. So, and I get it right. You know me, Lou, I jump smack in the middle. I get in the middle of a lot of these. So the remainder to the rightful heirs and the beneficiaries. And you're also responsible for filing any necessary tax returns and arranging to pay any taxes. And that's where I come in. That's what I help you with. Make sure that all your tax liabilities are taken care of. And it's not black and white. If you've been to my office lately, you see my new favorite book. It's my 2021 Tax Master Manual, and it is all 3,000 pages in small 9-point print are sitting there. And the section on estates and wills and probate, and that is probably one of the thickest sections in there. So, and again, I want to say this. You as the executor are responsible. You are also held liable by the IRS for not paying these bills. So you're not just oh well, Uncle Bob wanted me to do this. Or no, Uncle Marvin, my favorite, Uncle Marvin, because there was really a real Uncle Marvin. Uncle Marvin wanted me to do this, so I'm just doing it to help out poor old Uncle Marvin. No, the IRS holds you liable. The state will hold you liable. Now, even if you didn't have a financial responsibility to the state and you're not liable there, the IRS will hold you liable to make sure these taxes were paid. It used to be, years ago, the executors were not that liable for financial decisions, but there was a case, and there have been others, but there was one case where a person died, left a pretty good, they were very comfortable financially comfortable, as we like to say. They're a financially comfortable person, not overly wealthy, but had a good bit of money. And the heirs were all going to enjoy a nice distribution of funds once everything got settled out. And the person had kind of really done a good job of laying everything out. So the executor takes the money as assets were being sold off and things were being liquidated and cash was being put in the bank account. The executor thought, hey, how hard could it be to invest money? I mean, how hard is it to be Warren Buffett, right? I mean, come on. And after all, that stock is going to go up. We all know it's going to go up. So they opened up a TD trading account, invested all the money, and promptly lost it. Okay? So the heirs start wanting their money, to which she tells them, oh, the money's gone. It was bad investments. So they did what heirs are going to do. They got a lawyer. And they sued this lady. And she told the judge, I'm not a professional investor. I was just trying to do the right thing and put the money and try to make some money with that money. And the judge said, if you knew you were not competent, you shouldn't have done it. You should have hired somebody that was competent, and held her responsible for all the money to the heirs. She had to, and she did. I think she had to pretty much liquidate all her own assets to do this, but she had to make the heirs whole for the full amount of the money. So they are holding executors liable. If you know this isn't something you're good at, don't do it. She knew she had no background in investing. And now I've run into this with people where they'll come to me and they'll say the executor is doing this, is doing that, and I don't agree with it. I say, well, you need to let the executor know that you don't agree with it, and you need to remind the executor that they are liable, okay, because you are. So it's an important job. Now, my part is the tax return. I'm not doing this to give you legal advice, okay? But the first thing I would advise you to do is get some competent help. Get a lawyer. Get an estate and trust lawyer. Get a tax preparer who is an enrolled agent, a CPA, a tax attorney involved. A lot of these estates are beyond what your normal, tax preparer that just does, tax returns with a few W-2s. These estate taxes can get very complicated very fast. And don't assume that, how much time do I have left? 4 minutes? 4 minutes. And don't assume that Aunt Betty had no money. I mean, I'm going to get back to my Uncle Marvin story. Nobody knew Uncle Marvin had any money. As one of the heirs said to me, if I would have known he had money, I would have been nicer to him. At least the guy was honest. So Uncle Marvin died and left 5 heirs, $1.5 million. And no, total. Left 5 heirs a total. They split. I don't remember the final number. It took the attorney 2 years to sort the whole thing out, and he gave them interim payments in between. What happened is I've told the story in the air many times, and Uncle Marvin, not his real name, okay? So I don't give out any real names. Just want to make sure. So I get a phone call from somebody that said, I've got to file a tax return, and the attorney told me to call you, that you'd be good with this because you're an enrolled agent. I said, okay, why? He goes, I haven't filed tax returns in 10 years. I said, why? He said, well, I've been on disability, and I don't have to. Again, getting back to Social Security, disability, if you make a certain amount, you don't have to file a tax return. He goes, but the attorney told me I have to file a tax return. I said, why do you have to file a tax return? He said, Uncle Marvin died. I said, Uncle Marvin died? Like I'm supposed to know. Uncle Marvin died. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, tell me about Uncle Marvin. Uncle Marvin was a single man, worked at one of these mills his whole life, and never spent a penny. Owned a pickup truck, 2 pairs of overalls, and 40 acres. Okay? Well, the 40 acres in the house alone sold for like $400,000. Yeah, and it had been paid for since like the 60s. Okay? So Uncle Marvin owed nobody anything. He had savings bonds. Remember when people used to buy savings bonds? He had them rubber banded together in a file cabinet drawer, and they were so old that they were stuck together. The tax attorney had to separate them. The rubber band disintegrated, and he had to separate them. When they called him and said, well, we're finding all these papers. He said, don't even, just bring me the whole filing cabinet. Just take the whole filing cabinet drawer. Just take the whole drawer out and bring it to me. I don't want you to move anything. Because a lot of times they'll put things away in order. So it means something. They just didn't stick it in there. It means something, especially if you have 40 years of documents in this. And he had a will, and he left all the money to 5 heirs, nieces and nephews, and they split. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know, because the tax attorney was investing the money. They put it right out in a portfolio so that it would be safe, it would be guarded, it would be there, and all the money was going into that, and they were distributing funds out. So it could have been 1.8, 1.9 million before it was all said and done. It took them 2 years to do it. So don't assume, that whole story was to tell you, don't assume Aunt Betty didn't have anything. Because if Aunt Betty had a house that was paid for, I mean, any house today is worth $130,000 minimum, right? I mean, any of these little mill houses that you see, 130, 150, 160, I mean, 100, 90, don't assume. And then there's two types of beneficiary property. There's beneficiary property that beneficiaries are specifically named. And you as an executor have to know this. You have to go through this. So life insurance policies are an example. 401k, pension plans, all of these things will have a beneficiary, hopefully. I just had one where the person passed away. He had not changed his beneficiary in 30 years. His beneficiaries were his beneficiary and co-beneficiary had both passed away. Right. So what happens in that scenario? That money goes to the estate. So the whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars, man worked at a place his whole life, had a 401k plan that he faithfully put money into, goes to the estate. Am I running out of time? Well, you're supposed to give me my 1 minute finger.
Go ahead
And wrap up. Let me wrap up. So executors, I'm running out of time here. I've gone over. That's okay. I'm just cutting into the news. There's nothing new there. Solomon said it. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay, so let me just wrap up. Executors, I'm trying to drive the point home. It's a responsibility. Somebody passes away, you've got a lot to do, and taxes is one of them. It's very important. I have some handouts and some things I can give you to help you along the way, and I'm the first one that will tell you, you need an attorney, you need a this, you need a that, and I pull people in. I can't do it all myself. I don't try to do it all myself. You know, my part is the tax return, but I have a good view of the whole picture, the big picture, and I can help you. Give me a call, 828-289-9300. Okay, I got a feeling I'm going to be talking about this a little bit for the rest of tax season. The program is Gilbert Talks Taxes. I'll be back next Saturday at 8 a.m. WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
And we're joining ABC News already in progress.
Oath Keepers militia group just hours before the deadly riots. Stones repeatedly said he had nothing to do with the actions that day. House investigators hope to use that and testimony from the president's White House advisors on why he waited so long to order troops to the Capitol.
That's ABC's Andy Field. You're listening to ABC News.
Would you get on an airplane if you knew it had a 50% chance of crashing? You may be riding that plane right now. If you have your money in a 401k or IRA and you plan to take out the recommended percentage each year when you retire, your chance of running out of money is 50%. 50%. But there's a better and safer way to secure your income in retirement. Discover how in a free book called Rescue Your Retirement. This wealth building strategy has never had a losing year in more than a century.